The 76ers represent the city of Philly and the team with the second best and, as sometimes you could say, the best center in the league, Joel Embiid. This team drafted Embiid in 2014, and for a while, we have heard the phrase, trust the process. The big has accumulated an MVP, multiple All-Stars, All-NBAs, and all defensive selections, and even a scoring title under his belt. But ever since 2017, we have been waiting on the process. Paired with, at the time, one of the stars of the league, Ben Simmons, and Jimmy Buckets at one point, the team took a loss back-to-back years during the conference semifinals. Both times, they were a top 3 seeded team in the Eastern Conference. Followed up in 2019, we saw the iconic game-winning basket by Kawhi Leonard that sent Philly home and Embiid wailing in defeat. Then, throughout the next couple of seasons, the same outcome would prevail for the 76ers, even with the eventual addition of James Harden and departure of Ben Simmons, who might have been scared to lay the ball up against Trae Young. Roll that RDC clip. And even with Harden, the outcome was the same, as they took more losses in the conference semifinals with head coach Doc Rivers at the helm. Now, with the young star Tyrese Maxey, head coach Nick Nurse, and potentially future Hall of Famer Paul George, after a loss in the first round due to a lingering injury with Embiid, with all we've seen, we know what Embiid will give us in the regular season and when healthy. We know the mind of Nick Nurse, we know the rising star in Maxey, and we know what we can see if Paul George is healthy. So with all of these pieces, it's time to see results. So we are here to talk about what to expect out of the 76ers this season. But before we get into the video, make sure to subscribe, like the video, and comment on what you expect this Philly team to do this season. Now, going into this season, what is the goal for the Philadelphia 76ers?
Well, the goal is a fucking championship. I mean, is there any other option? Anything besides a championship is a disappointment. Maybe if they make it to the finals and lose, then maybe the team can save face and evade talks of disappointment. But this team has allegedly been knocking on the door year after year, even though they've never made it to the Eastern Conference Finals in the Embiid era. Fellas, Embiid is not getting any younger. And it's scary to say that because this man is only 30 years of age, but he's really more in alignment with like a 35, 36-year-old. He's brittle, he's fragile, he's injury prone, all of the above. And to make it worse, he clearly is a glutton. I mean, he's 7'1", 300 plus pounds. Realistically, he has 2 seasons, 3 max of great basketball ahead of him. All that being said, with the acquisition of Paul George, who is 34, this team is in win now mode. Nothing less than that. I'm envisioning a 2-year window for them to compete for a championship. And quite frankly, I don't see that happening. I'm sorry. I don't trust the alleged alpha on this team, who has historically been deemed a playoff dropper. 433 regular season games, Embiid is touted for 27.9 points per game, 11.2 rebounds per game, 3.6 assists a game. In his 59 postseason games, he's 24.9 points per game, 10.9 rebounds, 3.1 assists. No excuses, nigga. The expectations for this team are high, but they will underperform every single time because their leader is lacking in intangibles, and their second option is not known for stepping up consistently when you need him the most, referring to Paul George. That, culminating with age, will be the reason this team doesn't reach their goals of hoisting that Larry O'Brien for the first time in over 40 years. Nobody with a straight face can tell me that they trust Joel Embiid in the postseason with the money on the line. The day Joel Embiid's postseason numbers supersede his regular season numbers will be the day he's declined so much as a player that his regular season numbers have such a precipitous drop off that there's no other direction but him to go but up. Also, Joel Embiid, stop fucking talking. Niggas are not going to let you off the hook for those weak ass comments about how you're never going to play back-to-backs anymore. Sir, you wonder why you don't get the respect you think you deserve as an all-time great. This is the same nigga that said without injuries he would be the GOAT in the GOAT conversation. If there's a list of all-time softest superstars, then he would definitely be at the top of one of those lists. But the audacity of this fool to really sit up here with a straight face and say that on a public platform that you're not playing back-to-backs. What is going on with the NBA, man? Motherfuckers are really losing aura and respect as this league. Like, the preseason is going on. It's as of today, October the 20th, the season starting this week. And if we weren't recording these videos, I wouldn't have known that the season was beginning. All that to say, 76ers, the goal is a championship. They will be coming short of that mark. And it would be basically because I cannot trust the best player on that team who has all of these accolades has all of these stats, but we all know from his resume, when the playoffs begin, he will let us down every single time. And honestly, we really want to keep it a beam. You probably should have stayed with James Harden because those guys are twinning in more ways than one. We know that their production is going to drop off in the postseason. And we know that they're both gluttons. Like, they both are out of shape niggas. That's all I got for Embiid. I could ramble on more, but I'm going to kick it off to my boy.
Yeah, anything besides the championship, it's kind of a bust. I thought we knew that going into the season. Like, you know, you have an MVP player in his prime, 30 years old. It's time to win now. You got him another star player. You know, when the two-man game with Embiid and Maxey isn't working, whether, you know, they give the ball to PG and he can operate on the wing. You got a player like that. You've got role players around. I don't know if they're starting Caleb Martin. Hopefully they're not, because the lineup that they seem to be running with is Tyrese Maxey, Paul George, Caleb Martin, Kelly Oubre, and Joel Embiid. That four-man spot looks a little weak, man. I ain't gonna lie. It looks a little weak. If you're going to run Caleb there, I don't really like that, but that's just me. Ultimately, anything besides the championship is a bust for this team. I do see this team being a top 4 seed in the East and potentially facing a team like maybe the Bucks or the Knicks. I can see them facing the Knicks. I actually think this team fares well with the Knicks in the postseason. The Knicks are like the perfect counter to the Celtics, and this team pretty much faces well with the Knicks. I would like them to get that 2 or 3 spot so they can play them in that second round series. Pretty much avoid the 4 and 5 because we know the Celtics are probably going to get that first seed, and you'll see the Celtics more so in the conference finals. All things are looking for this team to fail. Doc Rivers is the coach, so you know you're not really starting good right there. Your best player is injury prone. He says he's not playing back to back. Now, I actually do agree with Joel Embiid not playing back to backs because, you know, his injury proneness early in his career, throughout his whole career, he's always in the playoffs. Like, I do agree with that. He didn't have to say that vocally, but I understand him not playing. Like, you putting aside your ego for the betterment of the team. Hopefully the team will be better. Hopefully they'll pick up some more backup bigs for the Embiid minutes, because we know they struggled in the postseason when Embiid was off the floor and their box plus minus went down significantly. But otherwise, I think this is going to be a pretty solid year for them. I think they're going to win about 50 games and be looking solely in that third seed spot. Hopefully they'll face, like I said, New York in the playoffs because they match up well against those guys. Yeah, but I'm not convinced this team's going to come out the East. Like, I'm not. I don't even think this team's the second best team out of the East. And that's pretty shocking for me to say that about an MVP player who just gained another star player on his roster. Honestly, I don't know what general manager can do to get any more pieces for the squad. I mean, this is kind of what you're rolling with. This is what you're putting all your eggs in the basket for. Like, this season, like, it's win or go home. Mano, my best player or your best player. And Joel Embiid has to prove it. He couldn't prove it last year because he was injured. And he got bitched the season before by Jason Tatum in Game 7. Like, where he had a putrid performance. Yeah, he had a putrid performance. That was one of the worst performances I've ever seen. Joel Embiid has to get those antics down under control because we're looking at him as one of the greatest all-time playoff chokers. I think he may be the greatest all-time playoff choker. He's up there with Karl Malone and Patrick Ewing, like up there with those guys as playoff choker. He needs to get that worked through. Hopefully this team does. I mean, well, I won't say hopefully because they don't have Tobias Harris anymore, which is thank the heavens. That nigga was fucking ass, and thank God we got him out of here. You know, he can go ride in fucking Detroit because he wants to go to Detroit and look like J. Cole over there. Like, go hoop over there, nigga. Like, go lose your 20 games and put up your whole 19 points, 7 rebounds, empty stats, empty calories, getting no all-star appearances. Like, go do that. Jesus Christ, man. Like, get off of my roster, bro. Like, I'm not even a Philadelphia Sixers fan, and I have like general hate for him as a player. I remember he said in the interview, he was like, yeah, man, Philly fans would trade me for a box of crumble cookies. And I was like, yeah, nigga, because you fucking ass. Like you put up the same amount of stats. He puts up his stats or he puts up like 3 points per game. Like, it's no in between. He's not putting any more than his stats and he's not putting any lower than 3 points per game. That's what he does. This dude had 0 points in a closing game last year. And they were running with him as a third option. He said this in the video. This dude was so disingenuous. This dude was like, yeah, man, you're not going to replace a 6'8" guy who can defend. And these niggas literally got Paul George a couple weeks ago. A couple weeks after he said that shit. F you, Tobias Harris. I don't like you. Please retire.
But yeah, man, Joel Embiid, we've all seen what he can do in the regular season. I mean, this is nothing new. He dominates in the regular season. That's cool. But as far as playoffs, as many times as I listed off how many L's he's taken, to be frank, I think his best bet when he could have made the finals was probably, 2019, had that shot not happen, and they would have won a game 7. They make it to the finals. Now, were they going to win? Hell no. They weren't going to be prepared for that Warriors team, but that's probably his best bet. Maybe, possibly.
He played bad in that series too. He averaged 19 points on like 36% shooting that series. And that series went to 7 games off a game winner. But you can't really be telling me, oh man, they should have won that series. Nigga, he got outplayed by Jimmy Butler and Kawhi Leonard. He wasn't even a top 2 player in that series. So for that to be his best shot, okay then. That's on him, fool. Because he lost that series. He was over there complaining. I remember Skip Bayless was hopping on Undisputed being like, this is still the best player in the league. Like on his glazing, man. Joel Embiid's over here dropping donuts in the postseason.
Best player in the league. What the fuck?
In 2019, that's crazy. I don't know what type of weed he was smoking, but hey, like Stephen A said, man, stay off that weed because that's crazy. As far as the playoffs, I think that's really the only thing that we should be talking about when it comes to Joel Embiid and, the health. He did say he isn't going to play any more back-to-back games for the rest of his career. And like Caleb said, that is something you should have kept to yourself. Now, is that a smart decision? Yeah, when you look at his injury proneness, yeah, that makes sense. But as far as saying that aloud, I mean, come on now, you should have known the backlash you were going to get for it. In the playoffs, it's just a reoccurrence. When you got a head coach like Doc Rivers and you got to leave, you're going to blow it. But, you pair that with a playoff choker, man, all hell breaking loose. There's nothing good coming out of it. Even in this season, I do see them probably making it about the 4 seed, probably top 5, per usual. If they go to the finals, to get to the finals, you got to play against the Boston Celtics. And you got to play perfect against that team. You're going to have to be on your A game against that team. Because you got guys like Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Kristaps Porzingis, Al Horford, Drew Holiday, Derek White. You're going to have to play perfect against that team. And even against the New York Knicks. Now, could they maybe beat them, in the first round last year? Maybe. Like, even against this New York team, they added pieces. A championship should be the goal on their mind. But how long is that window? How open is that window? And how big is it? It's not very big. But like I said, they're going to have to get over, 2 teams, the Knicks. They're going to have to get over the Celtics. Shoot, I don't even know. Could they beat the Pacers? Even though the Pacers, miraculously got as far as they did. Could they beat them? Could they beat the Bucks? With the healthy Giannis? Could they beat the Heat? If they got to the playoffs, we know how good the Heat is in the playoffs, even though they kind of came back down to earth. So it's all these factors when you think about a finals berth with Joel Embiid. We all know what's coming. Joel Embiid still hasn't made it to a conference finals. Fan Mahone, the big Boston Celtics fan, we know how much he's been talking about Embiid and his lack of conference finals appearances. I wouldn't be surprised that we see it again, man.
Can we please stop sugarcoating shit? This nigga's not going to the fucking finals, dog. He doesn't have that type of makeup. As CJ said, he's had plethora of opportunities. Series where he should be dominant and he is clear-cut supposed to be the best player in that series. He hasn't gotten this shit done. We can give him a little bit of a pass for last year because he was a little tad bit overmatched and he wasn't healthy. That's fine, but all of those other opportunities, this nigga has had to get it done. He has not gotten it done. It's a really good team. For as great as he is in a regular season, with the type of talent that they have now and coaching, because Nick Nurse is a coach that's won a championship, and niggas is still saying, no, the Celtics are clear-cut better. Knicks, all of these other teams, like y'all just gave me a list of teams that you would probably pick over them. He can't get it done. We got to start evaluating him in that class. Remember when Nikola Jokic, prior to them winning the championship, people were saying, okay, nigga, you got all these accolades, but can you get it done? We got to start. Joel Embiid is that guy where you have all of the accolades, all of the stats. You got to get a championship. And every year you don't get a championship is a year that we get on your ass. We did it for all of the greats. Joel Embiid, he wants all of the acclaim and all of the praise for being a great player. But when his ass doesn't show up, he doesn't want any criticism. None. He wants to evade it. He wants to escape it. He wants to say that niggas don't like him. Nah, you're not getting that. We are on your ass today and for the foreseeable future. He got to get it done. No excuses. I don't want to hear it. I don't care about no injury. So he's not going to play back-to-backs. But guess what? His ass is still probably going to limp into the playoffs. He's unreliable. Do we think that he's going to come into the season in shape? He's still probably going to be 300 plus pounds. When are we going to hold his conditioning accountable? Has Joel Embiid ever factored in his brain? Has it ever came across to him that maybe the reason why I'm always hurt is because my ass is fat? He's fat as shit. If his ass would probably get in shape, maybe he wouldn't be getting hurt every goddamn year. honestly, if I see that, that will probably make me trust him a little bit more, because I do think that part of the reason why he's choking in the playoffs is because he's not 100% healthy. But nobody's 100% healthy. You got to be able to get past that. I also think his pain tolerance is very low, and that goes into his softness. He's 7 feet, but you can't play through nicky neck injuries. You got to be able to power through that shit if you want to be a champion, because everything is not going to be perfect for you, Joel Embiid. For guys that win championships, it's not perfect. You look at Jason Tatum last year. They did have the best team. Jason Tatum shot not falling. He's affecting the game in other ways. It's not going to be perfect for you all the time. You're not going to be able to get your little 35 to 40 points and your 15 rebounds and you're 100% healthy and everybody's going to come along with you. It's not going to be like that. Sometimes it's going to be ugly and you got to get the shit done. So I don't trust him. I don't believe in him. I would bet my house that he doesn't get it done. I would push all of my chips to the middle of the table. I'm betting on Joel Embiid to not get a championship. Like, it's just comedic and comical that we're having this conversation year after year after year. Because what I don't want to see is semifinals, his ass gets bounced out in 6 or 7 games and he's crying. I don't want to see the shit. I really don't. I'm tired of the memes. I'm done with it. He has to get it done. I don't care if he's all NBA first team. I don't care if he averages 38 points per game. He got to get it done. Point blank, period.